What is up, Viego mans? The new split is here, and it has been a minute since I made a video like this where I update you guys on what you're supposed to be building on the new patch. Due to the fact that I pretty much almost died a week ago, I haven't really been on top of making this video, although a lot of people have been asking. But now I've finally been able to play the season and test things out, and so now I have a pretty good grasp on what Viego's supposed to be building for this patch, and I'm gonna just get right down into it, not waste any of your time. Let's just get into all the builds. I'll explain all of them, and hopefully by the end of this video you'll have a good grasp on what to build on Viego in the current season. Starting off with my favorite build right now, the one that I would recommend the most is the standard snowballing build, which is Kraken into Triforce into Sterak's. One of the main things you need to understand about Viego on this current patch is that he's very situational. There's a ton of different builds and items for each situation. This would be versus a team that's not incredibly tanky. They can be a little bit tanky, but for the most part, this is your standard build where Kraken and Triforce is the best snowballing damage, but not super squishy build that you can go. On the current patch, going full squishy, full damage is just not optimal because everybody does less damage with their items, which means that if you have health, it's more valuable than previous patches. So having Triforce and Sterak's in addition to Kraken Slayer is going to give you a lot of survivability and damage that's going to let you carry and snowball more than a lot of the other builds. Next, we're going to get into one of the situational builds, which is Bork into Triforce. Basically, it's the same thing, except the only difference is if there's 3 or more bruisers or tanks, you're going to want to go Bork. Bork is situationally good, especially if they have a lot of HP. The reality of Viego is he is never going to be able to fully kill a tank on his own unless he's super fed. But having Bork, Triforce, and then Black Cleaver is one of the main differences of this build, is going to allow you to help your team kill front lines if you have to play front to back, and just give you a little bit more damage when it comes to fighting those high HP targets. I would say that Bork is probably worth building in 20 to 30% of games. I know tanks are super popular right now, but unless they have a plethora of HP stackers, it's just better to go Kraken Slayer for the same reasons that it always has been, because Kraken Slayer is just a better tempo item. But Bork is still very strong right now, and me personally, I like going Bork into Triforce just for the extra damage as opposed to Sundered Sky, because Sundered Sky is more survivability, Triforce is more damage. I think that Viego functions better when he can kind of get his own resets, but that is up for debate. That is a little bit of a personal preference thing, but that is what I would recommend to you guys. Next is the new and super popular full Bruiser build. Now, me personally, I've tried this build a bunch, and it makes a lot of sense why it's good. I personally do not like it as much as a lot of the other builds. I've definitely tried it quite a bit. Starting Triforce, in my opinion, is just a little rough. It's an expensive item. The components are decent at best. And once you get it, you do a decent amount of damage, and obviously you're tanky. Not having Kraken Slayer or Bork to bolster the damage that you deal just feels really bad. And then once you have Triforce and you're building into Sundered Sky, it just doesn't really feel like you do a lot of damage. Now, to be fair, this build definitely has its place. A scenario that I would go full Bruiser is if I have a full squishy range team, or I have an enchanter with no engage. Obviously, Viego will never be an engaged champion, even if you build tanky. Playing a squishier build makes it virtually impossible to survive if you don't have any frontline at all. Full Bruiser is definitely a great build to go if you're in a scenario where you just don't have anyone else on your team that's beefy. Hopefully in this meta you do have someone that's going tank, because they're just so OP right now, but there are definitely going to be like 10 to 20% of scenarios where you can go this. This build is very consistent. Reality is you just don't do a lot of damage, but if you feel like you can play Viego better when you have more HP and more survivability as opposed to more damage, definitely go this build. It's very good, very highly recommended. A lot of pros and high challenger players are going this build. Me personally, I don't love it. I know a lot of people don't love this build just because of the lack of damage. Up to you whether you want to run it, but that is the scenario in which you would run it if you choose to. Now lastly is a little bit of an experimental build, which is Kraken Slayer into Titanic Hydra. Now this build is one that a lot of people have been floating around for a long time, which is Kraken into Titanic Hydra. I think it has potential, but only in one specific scenario, which is versus farm heavy junglers. Now, champions like Udyr or Lilia or Kayn, champs that clear the jungle faster than you and are able to heavily outpace you, if you don't go Kraken into Titanic Hydra, what's going to happen is you're just going to fall behind super hard in terms of tempo and pace and farm. Whereas I think going Kraken into Titanic Hydra, having a Tiamat item just helps you clear faster, push waves faster, and keep up tempo with those other junglers. They're obviously still going to be faster than you, but I think this is just a scenario in which you might consider going Titanic Hydra. Of course, you can always just like completely forget this build and just go the standard builds that I've already recommended. But if you want to try to experiment a little bit and keep up to pace with champions that farm super fast in the jungle when you're versus them, you can go Kraken into Tiamat into Titanic Hydra, which will give you a crazy amount of wave clear and jungle clear. This video was short and sweet. Hopefully I explained well the 4 viable build options that you're going to go on this patch. My recommendation is that you don't just look at one item set and think that this is the best build for every single scenario. Try to understand the different scenarios where you might go different items, and that way you can be dynamic and play Viego to its fullest. If you have any more questions, please comment down below. I really apologize for being late on this video. I know a lot of you have been awaiting this video for a while. I'm no longer dead, I'm back, I'm ready to go, so hopefully I was able to help you guys to the best of my ability. With that being said, good luck on the Rift. Viego's in a great spot, and I can't wait to hear how you guys are climbing in the new split. Have a good rest of your day, and see you next video.